This is an invitation to join the FringeReview review team. It's a voluntary role and you'd qualify to review for us if you have real professional theatre experience. You could be or could have recently been a writer, a performer, a producer, a director, a dramaturg, somebody working in the industry, working in theatre or performance. So we're not looking for reviewers to join us who are just fans. And that is not to diminish in any way the experience and interest that people who go to the theatre would have. But FringeReview is a practitioner publication. So amongst all the other people who are reviewing theatre, from various experts, critics and punters, journalists, we are particularly a publication where people in the industry write about the shows that they've seen. And that also leads us to having quite a strict policy, a code of ethics, if you like, that you can't have a conflict of interest with any show that you review. You can't be working with that company. You can't have recently worked with that company, although you might have worked with them years and years ago. It's very much a professional judgment about whether you feel you can still write objectively as possible about the work that you're seeing. FringeReview reviews tend to be a little bit longer. They are evidence-based. And essentially what we try to do is be as objective as possible. Now, we're not saying we are always objective, and there are philosophical arguments about whether it's possible to be objective when reviewing, but we do try for objectivity. So you're not reviewing your own just personal reaction to what you've seen. You're trying to look as closely as you can at the work itself. And so you would tend to review shows that you feel qualified to review. And so what was the quality of the writing? How were the performances? How well was the piece put together as a production, the lighting, the set, the originality of the piece? And we tend to write constructively. We tend to write what could improve about that show. We don't star rate. What we tend to do is have a different set of ratings from whether a show is recommended, highly recommended, or whether it's outstanding. And we have some other ratings too around whether we feel it's a must-see show, which would mark it out as being very, very unique as a piece of work in its field. Sometimes we also call a show a hidden gem, and that would be a show that's not getting audiences and the reviewer feels that the work is important enough to be seen. So all of those ratings you might think are a bit subjective, but again, they have to be evidence-based too. So you might not particularly be in a good mood that night, but you're not going to let that affect your ability to rate that work. And particularly, say, if it was a comedy, the fact that you didn't laugh should not separate your ability to actually still identify that as good work. And so that's the writing for FringeReview. Can be interesting, it can be fun. Reviewers tend to meet up and discuss the work that they've seen. And there's a kind of template to reviews really, where a bit like a good report or an essay, you might say at the start some factual stuff summarising what the show's about. Then you go deeper into assessing it as a piece of work along headings, as I mentioned before, around the writing, the performances, the originality, the staging, the concept itself, whether it succeeds in what it sets out to do. And then you would perhaps put your emotional reaction, but you won't base your rating on that reaction. Now, if you review for us at somewhere like the Edinburgh Festival or the Edinburgh Fringe, that is, or the Brighton Fringe or Adelaide Fringe, we do have a process that will get you set up with a username and a password. And early on, we'll tend to handhold you if you're new to reviewing. But the whole process of this is to write eloquently, clearly, enjoy writing your review. And we have feedback that companies benefit from that quality of writing, and it helps them improve their work, and they certainly use it in things like proposals for funding in their publicity. So FringeReview is looking for good work. And perhaps the last thing to say about that is if there is a show that we don't recommend, we don't publish the review. We're a kind of good fringe guide. What we do is offer that feedback privately to help those companies improve their work. So we're not avoiding saying what you shouldn't see. We're choosing that the publication itself is a place to go to find good work to see. And that's in a world where there is a lot of kind of very harsh critique. So if you want to review for us, drop us a line, send us a CV, and we'll take it from there.